Most of you know, I think all of you know. So just about a year ago, I lost my voice, started having problems with my voice, and come to find out I had thyroid cancer that was attaching to my vocal cords, and I had no voice for 4 months. So I went on a mission trip to El Salvador. Somebody prayed for me, completely healed. My cancer doctor, my oncologist, couldn't find a tumor, couldn't find any scar tissue, couldn't find anything. Miraculous healing. Then, October of this year, again, same thing. I was having throat problems, lost my voice, and I had nothing. I had no voice. And I was pretty bummed out about it, to be honest with you. And so I'm going to take you on a little journey. If you went up to youth convention with us a few weeks ago, we had story time in the shuttle. And this is a story that I did not tell, but you're going to hear it now. So if you were in the van and you remember story time, get ready because we're going to have another story time. So Gabriel was in the shuttle with us for story time. So was Judah. So was Guthrie. So we're going to have us another story time. So I was sitting in the woods a month ago, sitting at the edge of a field, and I was deer hunting. You may not like deer hunting, but I was deer hunting. And I had no voice, and I'm sitting at the edge of this field. And when I talk to God the same way that I talk to anyone else. If I'm mad about something, God knows I'm mad about it. If I think a situation sucks, I say this situation sucks and I don't want to deal with it anymore. If I have questions, I ask questions. When I'm happy, God knows I'm happy. When I'm upset about something, God knows I'm upset about it. So I was sitting there, and I said, God, who is this sickness for? Is it for me to teach me a lesson? Did I do something wrong to allow this sickness back into my body? Or is this for the person that prays for me? I inevitably get healed, and it's to show them who you are. That was my question. I thought that was a valid question. And as soon as I asked that question, God said, it's not a sickness, it's an unclean spirit. So who knows what an unclean spirit is? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, okay, some of you. I had a demon that was making me sick, okay? Now, I have prayed for people. I have seen demons cast out of people and go through brick walls. I've seen people levitate that were demon-possessed. I've also seen legs grow like 6 inches right in front of me, like one leg was way shorter, and I saw this miracle happen right in front of me. So I've seen both sides of it. I've seen God's miraculous healing. I've also been a recipient of God's miraculous healings. Well, this time, I was on the other side of it, and I had an unclean spirit, and I didn't know. So I was like, what do you mean it's an unclean spirit? Like, how did this happen? So then I went from mad that I was sick to mad about what was making me sick, or what I had allowed to make me sick. And as soon as I said, what do you mean it's an unclean spirit? 2 deer stepped into the field that I was looking at. So guess what? Conversation over. Now I'm going to shoot a deer, which is what I went to the woods to do. I'm watching these 2 deer for about 35 minutes, and they kept looking over their shoulder. And when they look over their shoulder back into the woods, there's something else there. And I was like, please send me a deer with some really big antlers. Okay, that was my new prayer. Send me something big that I can shoot. And a big buck didn't step out. Annie, thank you so much. I appreciate you and Mitch so much. Everybody give Annie and Mitch a hand. Thank them for filling in tonight. You are so loved. We appreciate you for keeping the kids up late. We love you guys. Appreciate you. I'll give you a hug next time I see you. So a deer did step out, and I watched that. As soon as that deer stepped out into the field, it went like this, and it stared straight at me. for 30 straight minutes, just like I'm staring at Greg right now, stuff his face with a candy cane. Right? That's how that deer looked at me. If I blinked, the deer looked even harder at me. It was the weirdest thing. So finally, after a half an hour, that deer decided that I wasn't a threat. I was just a misshapen, chunky tree. And you can laugh. It's okay. I do too. If you can't laugh at yourself, we have other problems. So this deer finally turned sideways. Okay? I shot the deer. I walked over to the deer. I didn't see it drop. I walked over there to where it was when I shot it. And I could see the deer, and I called my wife. Okay? You guys all know Miss Sabrina, right? Right? Okay? Love that woman. Okay? Sabrina and I have been together for 23 years, almost 24 years. Okay? And I called her, and I went, hey, I just shot a deer. She goes, I can hear you. And I go, what do you mean? She goes, like, I can hear you talking. It had been a few months since I had spoken, okay? And I didn't know that my voice was back. I called her, and I was expecting to go, hey, I just shot a deer. That's pretty neat. I have to get this thing out of the woods because I'm on sound for worship tonight. So I have to get to the church and turn everything on. That's what I was expecting to have happen because that's how my life had been. That Abigail and Gavin and Sabrina and Olivia were so frustrated with me because they couldn't hear me. Phone calls were just an obnoxious nightmare because they couldn't hear me. And she's like, I can hear you. And I said, what do you mean? She goes, like you're talking. She goes, what happened? So I told her, I said, I asked God, who was this sickness for? I ran her all the way through this conversation that God and I had. And she goes, well, if it's an unclean spirit, then tell it to get. Now, if you guys know Miss Sabrina, she's pretty soft-spoken, okay? She's not like unless you're one of her kids, she might raise her voice to you guys, okay? Or her husband, guilty, okay? She's had to raise her voice at me a couple of times. But she's not that direct. She's not like, well, tell it to get. And I go, huh? Like I was confused by what she said. And she goes, tell it to get. And I go, you got to go. That's what I said to this unclean spirit. And when I said that, I dropped my phone and I hunched over. I had the worst stomach pain. And I hunched over and I vomited for 5 to 7 minutes. I don't know exactly how long it was, but it was a long time. And nope, it wasn't that long. 5 to 7. 5 to 7. I did that on purpose. And when I throw up, little inside fun fact, it's not quiet. Okay? I'm like, it's violent, it's loud, it's gross. That is not a joke. Look at Abigail. She's like, yeah, that's true. How many times has that woken me up? Yeah. When I vomit, it's violent. I'm standing at the edge of this field by myself. When I shot that deer, I was looking at 11 other deer. And now, the 10 deer that are still alive were listening to me going, for a long time. And when I got done throwing up, it was just frothy, which is just bubbly suds of blood. That's all it was. But I knew that it was literally me being set free from a demonic spirit that was making me sick. Nobody enjoys throwing up, but if you know that you're throwing up and there's a spiritual breakthrough happening, it's pretty amazing, to be honest with you. So, I picked my phone back up. Sabrina had hung up on me at this point. She was at work, didn't want to listen to me throwing up. And I picked my phone back up and I called her and I go, hey. And she goes, you don't have a voice. And I was like, my throat's on fire. I said, I can barely breathe. Never mind talk. And I was so disappointed. I was like, God, why did you do this to me again? Like, that was my thought. Like, it's God's fault that I can't talk again. And I looked at my phone and I was like, okay, I have 45 minutes to gut this deer, drag it a half-mile uphill, throw it in my truck, change, and be down to the church, turn on all the sound stuff, and be ready to do sound. So I got to work. I did all that. I took care of the deer. I put my harness on and I dragged the deer out, threw it in the back of my truck, and I came here. The whole night here, no voice whatsoever. Didn't tell anybody about what had happened in the woods because I just didn't feel like it was the right time, first of all. And second of all, I was pretty upset. And almost disappointed, I guess. And Friday, same thing. But Thursday night when I got home, Sabrina goes, what happened? You had a voice, where'd it go? I go, I don't know. Now, you can ask my kids. I don't know is probably my least favorite thing that they say. When I ask them a question and I'm like, hey, how'd this happen? I don't know. Why is that broken? I don't know. How come the cows aren't fed? I don't know. How come the dog peed on the floor? I don't know. Why didn't you clean it up? I don't know. I hate I don't know. I don't hate many things. I hate I don't know. So I get home, and Sabrina's like, hey, what happened to your voice? And I'm like, I don't know. And she looks at me, and she goes, I don't know, because she knows I hate it. She just mocked me right back because she knows that I hate I don't know. And she goes, well, figure it out. She goes, if God said it's an unclean spirit, then tell it to get. And I was like, I did. I'm free. I'm not sick anymore. She goes, you sound great. And she walked away, and she went into our bedroom, and she went to bed. And I was like, what do I do now? Like, I don't want to go to bed with my wife now that she's mad. I don't know how to make her happy right now. So I just went to bed. And I went, I love you. She went, ruh-roh. Friday morning I woke up. I went to work. No voice all day. Sweet. I get home and she goes, I told you yesterday, enough. She said, if you're going to talk to me, you're going to talk to me in your normal voice. And I was like, she scared me, right? Like I was nervous. I thought I was going to get grounded. And I didn't know how to fix it. So I was like, okay, I'll talk slow. And if I stopped and I really thought about what it was I wanted to say, I could say it, and I sounded like I just had a stroke. Like that's how slow and deliberate I had to talk, but I had to talk that slow. And she goes, no, we're not doing this. She goes, you can either talk to me in your normal voice or don't talk to me. That's not Sabrina, okay? That is God's Spirit rising up inside of Sabrina because she was like, no, we're done with this. We're not doing this anymore. I'm not putting up with this. I'm not going to allow my husband to sit here and be sick. I'm not going to allow the enemy to come in and tell my husband that he's sick. This was a side of Sabrina that after 24 years, I had never seen before. Not that intensely. Saturday morning I woke up. It was a little bit better. I still had to think about what I was saying, but I could at least form sentences now. I didn't sound like a stroke victim. I wasn't sitting there drooling on myself anymore, so that was good, right? Sunday morning, I wake up, and before my feet hit the floor, I had my alarm set for 4:30. I was getting down here for 6 so that I could turn on all the lights and turn on all the sound. Had my alarm set for 4:30 in the morning. Before my feet hit the floor, I said, God, you gave me a voice. Remind me to use it. And my feet hit the floor, and I put my slippers on, and I turned around to Sabrina, and I said, I love you. Good morning, in my normal voice. and my voice has been normal ever since. But it took Sabrina, okay, like I said, I've seen demons cast out of people. You guys have heard me, most of you guys have heard me tell the story of when I was a teenager, when I was suicidal. I had a demon sitting on the edge of my bed, rubbing my leg, saying, just end it. I used to sleep on knives, hoping one would hit me just right. And I had a demon rubbing my leg, saying, just end it. Who's going to care? I have seen demons in my room. I've never felt one or recognized one in myself. And it took my wife, my soft-spoken wife, to be like, no, we're not doing this anymore, at all. We're done. Not like we're done. You guys know what I mean. She wasn't that mad at me. So, I tell you that because every single one of you has a voice. As I was preparing this week, I was thinking about all of you guys up here during praise and worship on youth nights. Where do 99% of you stand on a youth night during praise and worship? At the altar. On a Sunday, where do 90% of you stand or sit? With your mommy? Here, there, and everywhere? Maybe 6 trips to the bathroom, 4 trips to the coffee bar, a trip outside because it's too hot in here, because there's too many people. What's different? You guys, if you got a hold of your voices and you understood the assignment that God has for your life, and you guys applied that on a Sunday the same way that you guys do on a Wednesday, can you guys imagine the atmosphere in this place? Now, maybe you guys don't want to praise and worship with a bunch of old people. That could be it. Now, for me, I'm going to tell you something that God told me. Where am I on Sundays? If I'm not on stage or in the sound booth, where am I? Right here. That's not my spot, but this is where I'm comfortable. I'm comfortable at the altar. Now, Sabrina and I, when we first started coming to church here, fun fact, we sat where like the 3rd and 4th rows are, on the very end. That was where we sat every week. And then we moved up to the 2nd row. And during praise and worship, sometimes I'd clap, sometimes I'd raise my hand, but I had my hands on the chair in front of me because that was my safety net. That was my security. Because if I was in the front, I got to meet Jesus there. I got to face reality. I got to face the one that created me. I got to meet God face to face. I'm going to stand in his presence. Can you feel God's presence in a chair? Sure. But you know where you're going to feel him even more? At the altar. Now, personally, and this isn't, not everybody's the same, okay? Everybody's prayer life is different. Everybody's interactions with Jesus is different, okay? The way that you all got saved is probably different. But for me, one day these 2 chairs were open on the end. And this has got to be probably 15 years ago. I've been in this church over 20 years. I've been here a long time. Those 2 chairs were open. I said, Sabrina, we're going to sit in the front row today. She goes, I don't want to sit in the front row. I said, well, I'm going to sit in the front row. She goes, why? I go, because God told me to. She goes, why? I go, because if not, I lean on a chair. I don't lean on him. Now, that was just me. Okay? That chair was my security blanket from entering too far in. Because I wanted to be in God's presence, but I wanted to be able to stick my toe in the presence of God, okay? And be like, okay, that's good. I'm good for the week. Just, all right, I feel you. That's good. But I needed to be here. not just sticking my toe in, because that's what I needed. Now, Ephesians, I don't have any slides, so just listen. Ephesians chapter 6, 19 and 20 says, "And also for me, that words may be given to me in opening my mouth boldly to proclaim the mystery of the gospel, for which I am an ambassador in chains, that I may declare it boldly as I ought to speak." Now, I was allowing the enemy to mute me. I was not allowing myself to speak boldly the way that God created me to. I'd be like, yep, God's going to heal me eventually. Yep, God's going to heal me. Something's going to happen. Something's going to change. What? I don't know. I just had to get outside of myself. I had to get out of my own head. I just needed to stop being a stubborn jerk and finally accept what God had for me. God didn't call me to be second best. God didn't call you guys to be second best. He didn't call you guys to be a mute. He called you guys to be world changers. Do you guys understand the revolution that is sitting in this room right now? I said it a few weeks ago. If 5 of you guys grabbed onto the plan that God has for your life and you guys ran with it, it would change this entire church. And guess what? I'm 39 years old. I signed up for classes last year, my DSOM classes, and you know what I did? Nothing. I wasted some money because I waited so long to do those classes that I signed up for that it has now kicked me out and I have to repay for them all. Oops. Why didn't I do it? I don't know. Because I couldn't get outside of myself. I couldn't accept the plan that God has for my life. And Sabrina said it. She goes, no, you signed up for classes that you didn't even do. She goes, that's disobedience to what God told you to do. My wife's calling me out on that, which was pretty amazing because I needed that. So, moving on to a happier note. 1 John 4:4. You are from God. You're from God, each and every one of you. You are from God and have overcome them. What is them? Them is the world. Them is people of the world. He who is in you is greater than he who is in the world. For a long time, I've listened to the world and not listened to what God was telling me. So I played on dart leagues. I played AA. It's the highest league, I guess, the highest division in darts. And I could go to tournaments and I could make money. I loved playing darts. Do you know what I loved even more than playing darts? Anybody? Huh? Jesus? No, I loved drinking beer way more than I loved playing darts. The only reason that I played darts was so that I could drink beer. And every time I'd get convicted about it, I'd be like, yeah, but imagine how much I could change this place. That was my excuse. And God's like, how's that working out for you for the last 15 years that you drank away? I was in a place for 15 years when I could have been praying for people. I could have been praying for people's healing, praying for people's deliverance, praying for people to get set free from drinking, witnessing to people, and I'm sitting there right with them, and I'm telling the worst jokes that I could think of, drinking as much as I could possibly drink. And I was like, yeah, but I can't leave, because what if I change these people? You know who was changing? Me. And not for the better. Because I was allowing the enemy to mute me. So when I was sick, I was allowing him to mute my voice. When I was playing darts, I was allowing him to drown me. literally drowning me in beer. You know what you can't do when you're drowning? Talk. That might be a little heavy, but that's true. There's 9 years of my life, roughly, that I don't remember. I know that I drank a 30-pack a day. That's a lot of beer. And I smoked 3 packs of cigarettes a day. That's 60 cigarettes and a minimum 30 beers a day. I did that for 9 years. No wonder my throat was mad at me, because I allowed the enemy to live in there for so long. Each and every one of you guys has a voice that God has given you. And this isn't just to get you to go Christmas caroling, but God has given all of you guys a voice to be able to bless other people. Because there's nobody in here that is less than what God created you to be. You know that? Amber, you are exactly what God created you to be. He has a plan for your life. You may not know what it is. God has a plan for your life, and his plans for you are up here. And I don't know where you see yourself. You might see yourself down here. You might see yourself as average. Don't. I'm not calling you out like mad at you or anything else. But God has so much more for you than what you see in yourself. It's unbelievable. And as soon as you grab hold of that, even in your quiet place, in your prayer closet, say, God, begin to show me what you have for me. And each and every one of you should be doing that. You guys can sit there and mess around. I don't care. But in your quiet time, ask God, what do you have for me? Gavin, Mills, I love you being here. You have brought a dynamic to this group that we didn't have before. And that's because of a gift that God has given you. But God hasn't just given you a gift of being goofy and being loud and to be a stirrer of people in the natural, but God has called you to be a stirrer in the spiritual realm. God has given you God has given you a voice that you're going to begin to use that you don't know you have. I don't know what song it is. Keegan probably knows it. It's one of my favorites, and I should know it. But you got a lion inside of those lungs. Get up and praise the Lord. And that's for every one of you. Man, I heard that today when I was painting today. I was painting an apartment. And I was hoping that you two were going to be here. And when Sabrina said that Ben Drosden wasn't going to be here, I didn't know if you were going to be here. But you are more than what you give yourself credit for. Grab hold of it. Gavin, you too. Your voice is more than what you know. Grab hold of it. You got a lion inside of your lungs. Get up and praise the Lord. And praise doesn't just mean praise and worship. Praise isn't just music. If you are at school and you tell somebody about Jesus, guess what? That's some of the best praise that there is. Because you're declaring who your God is to your friends. It's the best. I work alone a lot, like 50 hours a week. I'm in an empty apartment all by myself. That's a long time to be alone. But you know what I do a lot of? Pray. Sing praise and worship, and I just pray. You guys, I have some of the best praise and worship sessions all by myself. It's so much fun. And I get to play every song that I like. And there's almost never a song that I don't know. I was telling Keegan, hey, you know what I was listening to yesterday? You guys won't understand this. You might have known like maybe 1 or 2 songs. 80s, that was a long time ago, 80s praise and worship music. You want to talk about dull, boring, no sound music? That's what I grew up on. And it was amazing. I had the best time yesterday. with my 80s praise and worship music. That last song that we sang tonight, not the last song that we had scheduled, was from the 80s. Well, that's when I heard it first, because I was born in 86. And I heard that yesterday, and I was like, oh, we're doing that tomorrow, and I was so excited. I pray for the apartment that I'm in. It's an empty apartment. When I go in and paint an apartment, do you know why I'm there? Because the person that lived in it died. Because they're all old people. I go in there and I pray for that apartment, and I pray for the family that just lost a loved one, and I pray for the next family that's going to be moving in there. I pray for you guys. God gave me that word for Gavin today and for Amber today while I'm painting in this apartment all by myself. You don't have to be on a stage. You don't have to be on a worship team. God's going to use you wherever you are. Don't be afraid to use your voice, the voice that God's given you. Okay? So, I'm not going to have an altar call tonight, but I'm going to pray. And I want all of you guys to grab hold of this. And I want all of you guys to know that it's okay to not know what God has for you. But it's not okay to not try to figure it out. Because otherwise you'll end up like a 39-year-old me and still trying to figure out what you're going to be when you grow up. And that's a difficult place to be. But God has a plan for every single one of you, whether you know what it is or not. It could be to be the best dancer ever. Everly loves to dance. I've seen Everly dance a few times at the Rise galas and stuff like that. I've heard Abigail sing many times because she's my daughter, and she sings all the time at the house. And I don't know what Abigail's calling in life is. I don't know what God has for her. I don't know what God has for you. But I know it's amazing. And it's okay to not know. And you can come to a leader. We'd love to pray with you. Hey, I pray that God would just give you direction, that God would begin to speak to you. And that's the prayer that I'm going to pray over you guys right now.